Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're locked in on what could be a pretty massive shift for Liverpool. Reports are flying around that they're moving fast for Bayer Leverkusen's right back, Jeremie Frimpong. And this is happening, with all the talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold potentially leaving for Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's right. And our mission today really is to unpack this whole potential transfer. We'll use all the info we've gathered looking at Frimpong himself, how he might fit tactically, what it all means for Liverpool. We've got stuff from Fabrizio Romano via Give Me Sport, Anfield Index, Training Ground Guru for Tactics.
The local view, too.
Exactly. Liverpool Echo, this is Anfield. Plus broader takes from The Independent, Inside Europe, even a Reddit discussion on his stats, and some transfer strategy analysis. The aim is to give you the key stuff without, drowning you in information.
Absolutely. And look, anyone who follows Liverpool knows Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been immense, a real pillar of the team. His impact, undeniable. So replacing him, or even thinking about it, that's a huge task. Okay, let's dive in. What are our sources telling us first off? Is the interest real? And how does Frimpong feel about it?
Well, the consensus seems pretty strong, actually. Fabrizio Romano, writing for Give Me Sport, says Liverpool are actively pushing, that's the word he uses. And crucially, Romano says Frimpong is, quote, keen on a move to Anfield. Apparently, Arne Slot's expected style of play is a big draw for him.
Okay, so the player wants it.
Seems like it. This is Anfield, and the Liverpool Echo back that up. The Echo says he's warm to an Anfield switch. Yeah. And when the player's eager, that can really grease the wheels.
It certainly can. Good point. So interest from both sides. What about how far along things are? Could this happen quickly?
Signs point that way. We're seeing reports from kickers in Germany suggesting it might be, well, almost there. On the verge, I think was the phrase. Just final details left. And then there's the release clause that keeps coming up. Around 35 million.
It's about
roughly 30 million, maybe a $40 million total package when you add in the solidarity payments and things like that. It makes the process potentially quite clean, Trigger the clause, talk to the player.
Right. And there's talk of a long contract, too.
Yeah. Kicker, again, mentioned via This is Anfield, suggests a possible 5-year deal until 2030. That definitely signals they see him as a long-term piece if it goes through.
5 years. Okay, now let's get into the player himself, Jeremie Frimpong. Replacing someone like Trent with his unique skill set, the style comparison is everything, isn't it? Yeah. What did the sources say he plays like?
This is where it gets really interesting because they are quite different. Frimpong is almost always described as an attacking fullback, sometimes even a wingback, really. And his numbers for Leverkusen, they're seriously impressive for a defender.
Like what?
Well, Romano mentions 5 goals, 12 assists this past season. Anfield Index notes 14 goals and 12 assists in the previous season. That's huge output. And the Echo puts his overall Leverkusen record at 30 goals, 44 assists, and 190 games. Inside Europe calls him enormously dangerous going forward. Those are, they're eye-catching numbers.
You really are.
Yeah.
But Trent's attacking threat is often different, isn't it? More about the passing range, the playmaking from deep.
Yeah.
How does Frimpong compare there?
That's the key contrast. Anfield Index nails it, I think. They say Frimpong thrives off the ball. It's about his verticality, acceleration, and direct penetration, running into space, using his speed, whereas Alexander-Arnold, as you said, he's the one raking passes across the pitch, conducting things from deeper. The Echo highlights his progressive passing. The Reddit analysis we found puts some hard numbers on this using percentiles.
Okay, percentiles. Let's get into that Reddit data. What stands out comparing their attacking styles, and maybe the defensive side too?
What jumps out immediately is Frimpong's progressive carries. He's in the 98th percentile compared to other fullbacks in top leagues. That means he's constantly driving forward with the ball. Very direct. Maybe not something Liverpool's fullbacks have done quite as much in that way. He's also 92nd percentile for expected assisted goals, XAG.
Yeah.
So he gets into positions to create good chances.
Okay, very attack mode.
Definitely.
Yeah.
High percentiles for non-penalty goals, expected non-penalty goals, touches in the attacking box. It all points to a player who lives in the final third. But, and this is the flip side, the same analysis shows much, much lower percentiles for things like progressive passes, tackles, interceptions, clearances, blocks.
How low are we talking?
Some are in the single digits. It really highlights that potential difference in defensive contribution, or at least defensive style. Areas maybe needing development.
Okay. A definite contrast there. So thinking about Arne Slot coming in, how might a player like Frimpong fit into his tactical ideas for Liverpool?
It's an interesting question. Training Ground Guru notes the evolution of the fullback role, and Slot historically likes attacking fullbacks. Anfield Index suggests Frimpong's sheer energy, his pressing. It could fit Slot's system well, creating those wide overloads. There's even talk from Anfield Index and the Echo that maybe Salah plays more centrally and Frimpong provides all the width on the right.
That would be a significant shift.
It would. The Echo also mentions Frimpong is comfortable with short passes interchanges, which could work in a possession-style Slot might build. You know, modern fullbacks are often judged heavily on attack, and Frimpong certainly delivers there.
That's a good point.
Oh,
okay, shifting gears slightly, but it's crucial for the Premier League. Homegrown status. Our source picked up on this, right?
Yes, absolutely vital. Anfield Index, the Echo, the Independent. They all stress this. Because he spent 9 years in Manchester City's academy, Frimpong counts as homegrown. That helps massively with squad registration rules.
Big tick in that box, then.
Huge tick. And Anfield Index also points out he already knows Virgil van Dijk, Cody Gakpo, Ryan Gravenberch from the Dutch national team. Little connections that can help someone settle. But we should also say he won't just walk in unchallenged. Connor Bradley has really impressed.
Right, Bradley's emergence is a factor.
Definitely. Anfield Index and the Echo both mention Bradley as a genuine contender for that starting spot, so there'd be real competition.
Okay, good point. Let's circle back to those defensive question marks raised by the Reddit data. Do other sources offer a different perspective on his defending?
They do offer some nuance. While the raw stats might look low in some areas, Anfield Index mentions he's reportedly improved his tackling and positioning under Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen. Alonso apparently worked specifically on that side of his game.
So potential for growth there.
Potentially. And the Echo actually found a stat showing Frimpong had a higher tackle success rate than Trent last season, which is interesting. Also, someone in that Reddit discussion made a fair point comparing Frimpong's defensive numbers from when he played in a back four before Alonso switched systems to Trent's current stats. It suggested maybe the gap isn't quite as dramatic as the percentiles alone look.
And coaching can make a difference.
Exactly. That was another point on Reddit. Slot has a reputation for improving players defensively. Trent himself is an example of a player whose defensive game developed significantly under Klopp.
That's a really important context. Okay, what about the money side? That reported $40 million total package. Sounds pretty reasonable in today's market.
It really does. Romano, Anfield Index, the Echo, the Independent, they all describe it as a relatively modest fee, especially for a player of his age, his attacking output, and his potential. Anfield Index compares it to how Liverpool got McAllister using the release clause. It looks like another potentially smart, financially savvy move if it comes off.
Right, exploiting those clauses again. Seems like a calculated move. High potential upside. Now, are there any other angles or sort of alternative views in our sources we should mention?
Yeah, always good to get the full picture. Inside Europe had a report, though it's from May 2023, linking him to Man United back then. They praised his attacking danger, but also said he's not the greatest monster in defense and probably best as a wing-back. So that assessment isn't brand new.
Okay, so similar concerns raised before.
Exactly. And Anfield Index also adds a layer, suggesting Liverpool's top priority right now might actually be a left-back. They mention Milos Kerkez as a target, so Frimpong might not be the only defensive signing they're looking at.
Interesting. So other priorities, potentially.
Could be, but then the Echo counters that slightly, saying if Trent leaves, Liverpool are simply a right-sided defender down, making a signing there pretty necessary. And one last bit of caution, maybe, from David Lynch at Anfield Index. He floated the idea that maybe the push for this move is coming more from the players' camp, wanting a move away from Leverkusen.
Ah, okay. So maybe not entirely driven by Liverpool initially.
It's a possibility. Just reminds us that transfers have lots of moving parts, lots of motivations.
Absolutely. Player desire, agent influence, it all plays a role. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive on Jeremie Frimpong to Liverpool?
Okay, summing up. Frimpong looks like a super attacking right back or wing back. He's available for what seems a reasonable fee due to the release clause. He's Premier League ready with that homegrown status. And crucially, he seems very keen to join, partly because of Arne Slot. His attacking numbers are genuinely exceptional. Suggests a very different kind of threat from the right for Liverpool.
On the defensive side.
But yes, there are definite questions about his defensive game, especially when you compare him directly to Trent Alexander-Arnold's all-round game. However, there's evidence of improvement and potential for Slot to develop him further. His homegrown status is a big plus, and tactically, he offers Slot some exciting possibilities.
So for you listening, this really could signal a big tactical shift under Arne Slot if it happens. Hopefully, you've got a much clearer picture now of what Jeremie Frimpong might offer and the whole debate around his potential arrival at Anfield.
Yeah, and that leads us to a final thought, something for you to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Given how different Frimpong and Alexander-Arnold are stylistically, how much do you think Liverpool's approach down that right flank would actually change next season? And what knock-on effects could that have on the whole team's balance and how they play? Definitely something to keep an eye on as things develop.